morning, dear students. Today's topic is about Matthew Arnold's critical essay, The Function of Criticism at the Present Time. Today's topic is about Matthew Arnold's critical essay, The Function of Criticism at the Present Time. The essay Function of Criticism at the Present is one of the important critical essays of Matthew Arnold. So Matthew Arnold has written a number of critical essays, and this remains the function of criticism at the present time as a unique essay as it deals with different aspects of criticism. It lays down the creed of Arnold's critical approach and practical criticism. So he is known for practical criticism and his approach towards assessing the works of art. This particular essay reveals Arnold's practical approach in criticism as well as his critical approach towards analyzing or assessing a work of art. It is a sort of preamble to Arnold's canon and concept of an ideal critic of life and literature. So he is an ideal critic of life and literature, and this essay can be termed as a preamble to his critical approach. So Matthew Arnold's approach towards literature is broad-based as well as rational. So he always believes in practical approach or pragmatic approach towards the work of art. That's why his views on literary works has been highly regarded and people continue to follow him in assessing the works of art. Arnold says that critical faculty is as important as a creative faculty. This sentence is so important for a student to understand the literary works. According to Arnold, critical faculty is as important as creative faculty. So both are indispensable. So criticism exists only because of creative art. So creative art is the response for the growth of criticism. So in this angle, so criticism and creative art are, are two eyes, are two branches of literature. Both of them should exist. Then behind every act of creative faculty, there is a good deal of critical faculty. So behind a noble work of creative faculty, there is a kind of a link between critical faculty too. In fact, no great work of any rank is possible but the good ideal of critical effort behind it. So one has to make a critical effort while producing a work of art. So there is a great need for and importance of criticism in English literature. So criticism makes work of art immortal. It is in the hands of a critic also, in the hands of critic, a work of art becomes noble, becomes immortal, because it is the criticism that makes work sustain for a longer period. The views of critic on a particular work of art makes the writer or the work extremely popular. So that's why critics have a significant role in making the works of art sustain for a longer period, to live for a longer period. Then it is true that critical effort is lower in rank than the creative power. Is that a creative power is more superior than critical power. So creative, we attach a criticism to it. Without any work of art, there is no existence of criticism. But a man may use his critical power to produce a great critical works, as usually as in producing great works of literature and art and literature. Even a writer should have a critical approach. So before producing or before writing a work of art, he must think of his ideas in a different angle while keeping his perception in the form of work. Then Arnold says that a creative writer needs to have current. You see, a creative writer should have fresh mind, should be broad-based, should have multifaceted personality, and he should have he should be a versatile genius. So when he possesses the basic qualities of having a cosmopolitan outlook, knowledge in different sectors will make him really a creative writer. The function of a critic is to provide these currents of fresh and new ideas. So the ideas must be very, very fresh in his work. So ideas or perceptions in a work of art should be novel, should be creative. Then only it receives much appreciation from its readership, and it also receives acclaim from the critics. So when a work of art doesn't contain a fresh thoughts or fresh ideas, and it doesn't attract the people, and it doesn't receive any kind of support or recognition from different sections. Arnold defines criticism as a disinterested endeavor to learn and propagate the best that is known and taught in the world. Is it? A critic is a person with genuine judgment. He should not be biased. So his interest is to bring out the facts. His interest is to dig out what is reality in it. He must identify what kind of fresh ideas are brought in the work of art. So a critic must have, a broad sense to understand the perception, to understand the ideas of the writer. In an age, so as I said earlier, Matthew Arnold belongs to Victorian age. So Victorian age, has seen different kinds of work of art having different kinds of thoughts or ideas, in which currents of fresh and new ideas in an age, currents of fresh and new ideas are wanting to great work can never be produced. A creative genius does not discover new things, for that is the business of a critic. Arnold says that synthesis and exposition not of discovery. He is surrounded by a certain intellectual and spiritual atmosphere, by a certain of ideas. So a critic must have a different kinds of outlooks. Two factors are needed for the production of great work. So two factors are required. So two important elements are required to produce a great work of art: the power and the power of the moment. The power of the man, power of the moment. So amalgamation of these two things will make a great work of art. So the power of man should be blended with the power of the moment. So if these elements come together, and there is a possibility of producing a wonderful work of art. The man is enough without the moment. A poet, all about human life and the world around him. A poet, as I said earlier, should be aware of what is happening around him, should have keen perception to understand the of others, or he must be aware of men and matters around him. So when he observes clinically what is happening around him and what kind of people are around him, what kind of environment in which he is living, what kind of situation he is placed in, all these factors make a poet. This knowledge of the world involves a great deal of critical effort. When a man involves in different kinds of things, when a poet involves in different kinds of activities, when a poet moves in different angles to understand the people, to understand the situation, to understand the society, then he can produce a critical work he can produce a work which can sustain for a longer period. There was a great burst of ideological activity in England of Shakespeare and Greece of Pindar. So here he names two great writers. Here he names two great writers by name Shakespeare and Pindar. These two great writers have become extremely popular in the world, as they were keenly interested in the activities or keenly interested in the affairs of society. Yes. Pindar. Those ages were saturated with fresh and new ideas, and this made the society intellectually alive. You see, the writings of Pindar, the writings of Shakespeare has brought liveliness to the society, and moreover, these two writers in their works, they always tried for novelty, for creativity. They always created new things. Instead of discovering, they invented new things, or Shakespeare's popularity lies in adding his own novelty to the already existing themes. So number of his the plots of Shakespeare plays have been derived from other dramas, but what made Shakespeare popular is his addition of his own talent, his addition of his own skill, his addition of his novel ideas that made his plays extremely popular. This is what we expect from a writer. Algar's opinion, criticism can actually prepare the ground for the existence of great creative power. It is sometimes what happens, a critical analysis of different works makes the present writer to write a work of art in a such a way that it meets appreciation of the critics. A poet must know all about life. A poet must know all about life. He must be aware of sorrows and joys of life. He must be aware of emotional balance, and he must be aware of temperament. All these human emotions and experiences, a poet must undergo. Then only he can produce a work, life and world before dealing with them in poetry. Before he starts poetry, he must be aware of all the things. Then, knowing about the life and world implies a great critical effort. You see, to know about the world, to know about the people, it requires a lot of labor. Right. So knowing about life and world implies a great critical effort. So it is not as easy as we think to know about the world. It requires a lot of labor. Intense labor is required to understand the people, to understand the world. So a person who wants to be a poet must be a hard laborer so as to understand the people, so understand the world. So once the poet understands the world and people around him, it becomes easy for him to write a good poem. So you see, when we look at Shakespeare plays, all Shakespeare plays are a reflection of human life. So every character in the play reflect our own nature. That is the reason, why Shakespeare's credibility lies in bringing life of common people very near to the life of art. Then the poet with all his creative gift needs to make a critical effort before being able to create anything worthwhile. If he wants to produce a work of art worthwhile, he must go through this hard labor to observe, experience, gain. To observe, experience, gain. What? About the people and about the society. Yes. Both Byron and Goethe had a great productive power. So here, Matthew Arnold names two great personalities, Byron and Goethe. These two writers have got a productive power. So that means these two writers, having got keen observation of men and the matters around them, have produced great works. Then, but Goethe's poetry was nourished by a great critical effort, which Byron's poetry was not. So Byron's poetry does not have the enduring qualities of the Goethe's poetry. When we compare, when we compare both Byron and Goethe, what we understand is that Goethe's poetry has got elements which can survive for a longer period, whereas Byron's poetry doesn't have that kind of power to compare with Goethe. English poetry, the English poetry of the first quarter of the 19th century, with plenty of energy and plenty of creative power. So, Arnold again deals with the They did not have enough knowledge. So it did not have an adequate critical. It did not have adequate. So poetry is so empty at matter. Shelley's poetry is so incoherent. So here also, Arnold